Hey YouTube. So we're going to continue with this video of hanging this door now. This is a pre-hung door. One of the things with a pre-hung door is it confuses a lot of people because, you know, you've got the three sides, or the two sides and the top to contend with. It seems like almost, you know, right away they're in your face. You gotta, because they're hanging loose, they're moving while you're trying to nail whatever. But what I like to do with a pre-hung door, and you gotta, geometry is the key to my success in building. If I wouldn't have been taught geometry, it really would have screwed me up for a lot of things that I think about, you know, and how I put stuff together. But anyway, these doors are already pre-hung so that there's an inch of space between the bottom of the door jamb and the door itself. So that's good. So what I do is I lay a level down and I see if the floor is level. Now that floor is dead on level right there. So that means I can use that as a guide to start hanging my door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make sure the door jambs rest on the floor. I'll set them in place where the opening is, and then I'll start to put shims at the hinge side of the door. Now, when I put the door jamb in place, okay, when I set the jamb, when I set that jamb here and the opposite one over here, what I want to look at right away is the top of the door, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because if it could be that the door frame or the floor is level, which I know it is because I just checked it, but it could be also that the jambs are different lengths and that the manufacturers didn't, you know, the quality control wasn't there. So you just have to look at stuff like that. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. Alright, so for the moment this door is just sitting here by itself. It's not nailed in, there's nothing holding it or anything else. Now you can see just the weight of the door is pulling the door that way, the weight of it hanging on the hinges. So, you know, you want to sort of center the door in the opening, although it doesn't have to be. There's no rule to do it or reason to do it, unless you're not going to cover something with the molding. So, it's nice though if you have some shims between all the parts of the door. And the reason for that is because if the door swells or whatever, you may be able to later on come back and do something with this. Now, doors don't act up like they used to at one time because of the way we insulate our houses and stuff and all. It doesn't take on moisture as rapidly as they used to in the olden days or the older days. So, what we have here is I have the jambs are resting on the floor. So I'm going to shut this door to see what kind of space I have up there. Now the problem is I can't see it from that side because the molding is there. So when I look at it from this side, I see that the door has a wider gap on this end than it does on that. And that's because the door is pulling the jamb over there. So what we got to do is just level this side up. Once this is plumb, this door will hang the way it's supposed to. So that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on plumbing up this side. Now one of the ways to keep the door, or to help you keep the door where it ought to be, is to take a block of wood or two or some shims and put them underneath the edge of the door. Because right now the door is hanging down on the ground here. So if I put something underneath that door, what that does is it holds the door jamb fairly straight. Now that's a little high, so I'm going to take a piece out. And that's a little too low, so this is why you want to use shims for this. What I'm looking for is I have the bottom of the door jamb in line with the wall, and I look at it this way. But the top is in about 1/2 inch. So if I raise this up over here, and you don't have to raise it 1/2 inch, I'm raising it just the thickness of a shim, which is about 1/4. Now, I can work with this. It's going to hold it for me. I don't have to have somebody hold the door. I just want to make sure that I'm even here with this space, which isn't bad. Okay, so now that I have that held there, I'm going to go ahead and start to shim this. What I want to do is put at least one shim at the bottom, and I'm doing this different than I did the other day. It doesn't matter how you do it. I'm just showing you different ways. So I'm going to put a shim at the bottom and put nails in that, and then I'm going to shim at the hinges here and here as I work my way up with the level. Okay guys, so what you're looking at there, you can see that down on the bottom there I have a shim in. Now there's no real rhyme or reason for me putting this shim down here other than the fact that I'm not positive what this door jamb is going to do exactly, you know, the framing. I don't know if it's in, if it's out slightly. You can see it's slightly leaning this way a little bit, and it's not much, it's just enough to need a little shim. But I put the shim on the bottom because the more room you have on both sides of the door, the more you can make the door even closer to a nice fit. So like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, I like an 1/8 of an inch for a door fit, and that should be good when the door is closed all the way around it. But anyway, you can see I have a shim here, so now I put the level on there, and I'll just back up here for a second and show you. So I nailed this with a nail through the shims, and I'm putting the level on the door stop. Now make sure you leave the nails stick out, it's important. It's not as bad with softer wood. This is a soft wood, I don't need a pre-drilled, I can nail the nails right in. But right here I'm looking at the level, and I'm not wanting close or almost there. I want it dead level, okay? If you don't have the door jamb dead level, the door's going to move on its own until it finds wherever it's happy, you know, to stand. So you want the door to basically stay wherever you put it. Alright, so we're looking at this thing, we're looking at dead level there. I put a nail in this shim. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here. We're going to make sure we're touching this area, especially down in here from here down, because we know that that's plumb already. And we're going to check this. Now, if I look at the level really close here, I can see that I'm away with the level up there. The level's showing plumb, but the board's away, so it actually has to come over a little bit. So it needs more shims at the top there. So I'll put more shims in there. Now this method that I'm using here to hang this door, the only reason you can use this method is because, you know, I'm working in a new house, the floors are relatively brand new and everything, so it's flat, you know, it's level. It's still where they put it when I built the house. But if you're working in an older home, you may not have a level floor, so to take the door jamb and just set it right on the floor may be a big mistake. But what you can do is you can shim up the bottoms of the door jamb to make it level. So before you put the door jamb or the door in place, take a level, put it across there, and use shims if you have to make the level, or, you know, the bubble in the middle. And then whatever amount of shims you needed to put on either end of the level, you can basically take them and move them over to where the jamb's going to be to hold the jamb level. If you're starting this way. A lot of times I start on the sides. That's what I did with the other door. But anyway, there's a number of ways to do it. The thing is that you do it and get the door to hang right. That's the number one thing we're after here. Okay, so I have some shim pushed into there. Now my level's good. My level's good right at that point, and I'm pushing a little pressure on it this way to make sure that the jamb is against the shims and and that the shims are against the frame. So I'm looking pretty good right there. The second thing I want to check is to make sure that I'm flush with the drywall, and I am. So now I can go ahead and put another nail in here. I know this is going to sound a little, I guess the word sadistic. But when I go to drive nails and I'm working with finished work, I actually put my hand so that if I missed a nail, I hit my hand. Let me tell you what that does. It really makes you careful in your aim. You make sure that you're going to hit the nail. That's why you're not seeing me take full swing. But it's just a little trick. You just put your hand there. It's in the way of the hammer. The only thing you can hit is the nail or your hand. And that's what I do to keep myself from damaging all the molding. The other thing I want to show you too about clean hands. Now, I was just working with my generator before and all, and it should be better. Of course, this door is getting painted, but I just want to show you how fast you can put marks all over the place. You see the marks there? There's all kind of marks on here from my fingers. If this was a finished product, which it's not finished, the door's not even finished, it's all primer, you know, you'd be making a mess there. So you really want to try and have yourself cleaned up, your hands cleaned up, even your clothes. If you have anything on your clothes, can be getting all over the paint. Alright guys, so now we have, and this is why these pre-hung doors are popular, because that's how quick you can have the door pretty much in place. Alright, so now I know the door is in place there. I'm going to pull these shims out of here that are holding the door. And I'm going to shut the door, but I need to be on the inside here so I can look at the gap that's at the top. Well, we don't want that. Okay. Alright, so the gap at the top of the door here, the gap along the door where the door meets the wood, is beautiful. It's just right. Now you can see even this pre-manufactured door, there's a bow in the wood. It's wanting to come out away from the bottom of the jamb there. So what we're going to do with this, since this, or it wants to come away from the frame, I mean. Since this header is a set size for the door, what we're going to do here is start at the top and work our way down now with the shims. So you want to make sure, again, that you have the door so that it's evenly spaced on the drywall. And for these, because this is narrow, it's thin, I don't know what kind of wood this is, probably finger jointed in 100 places. What you want to do is make sure you're even on the drywall and get these snug. Get your shims nice and snug. So that they're pushing the door this way. Now if your shims aren't snug, you'll pull the jamb apart and then you'll open this miter joint up that they have for the door stop molding. So you want to be careful of that. Alright, we're not looking bad there. Now I can actually put a nail in there without checking anything, because I know that this is plumb. The door is fitting the opening. Now, you know, even at this point, the door could be out of square. But we're going to go with the fact that it's machine made and it should be square. So we're going to just go with that. I haven't found many that are not square. But anyway, we're going to use this as we have it. We know that the top is level because the bottom's level, all right? I'm just checking to make sure I can see right past the drywall. Hold on guys, I got a message. Okay guys, so I have this nailed in place with one nail up here. and I did not pull the molding apart here. In other words, this doorstop molding that's running across here still has a nice tight joint. If you find yourself pulling that apart when you nail it, it's because you don't have the shims tight enough, okay? All right, so now I'm going to go down to the middle of the door. Let me get my big level. Down to the middle of the door here, and I'm going to put a set of shims. Now what I want to do here is push the bottom of the door in with my foot. Now I'm looking here, this should go in a little bit. Now here's the thing, I just pushed the bottom in with my foot, and this is very thin. This isn't, I don't even think this is 3/4, this doorstop. No, it's 5/8. This is 5/8 inch wood, so it's pretty flimsy. So when you have this shim here, it's acting like a fulcrum. So if I push in on this, I'm actually bringing this out. That's the problem with the stuff we make today. Everything is thin, okay? So you want to look at this real close and try and figure out why it's doing what it's doing. Okay, so this says, the level's telling me that this has to go in a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is pull the shims out a little, make sure I'm centered over the wall, and then put this back up here. A little bit more yet. So I'm not caring about what's happening at the floor right now. I'm caring about what's happening to this space between my shim and the top there. And right now it's dead level. Now I do have to push in on the level because the middle of this door is wanting to come out. But at this point it is level when this gem wants to come out. It's because of the thinness of the wood. So I'm going to put a nail in here. Just to hold that. Looking good. And that's good right there. So because these gems are so thin, I'm going to put another set of shims up in here yet. The ones on this side, as long as they're by the hinges, they should be good. So I'm not even going to worry about that side. Okay, so I have a nail in here. And I have the level there. So between here and the top, it's nice and plumb, okay, plumb, but also it's flimsy. So I want to put another set of shims in here. Now what I do with this, since I already know that this thing is where it's supposed to be, all I want to do is put the shims in there roughly equal distance until the shims can hold themselves, okay? You look at it to make sure you're tight. Put another nail in there. Okay. So that's good. Nice and plumb. Now we're going to do the bottom. Now if you look, there's a big major gap in there. That's because this bottom has to go in further, okay? At the bottom, at the very bottom. But in the middle, it has to come out. Again, because this wood is only 5/8 inch and it's actually flexing according to what I put into place with the shims. So what we want to check here is from here to the bottom. We don't care what the middle's doing at the moment. So right there it says that the door jam should go in a little, which it has room to do. And that's about, well, that's a little too far, so it does need some shimming at the bottom. So we're going to put 2 shims at the bottom of the door. This is the hardest part for my age. Again, I'm making sure that the jamb is where it's supposed to be. Just because it came from the factory doesn't mean it's straight. Alright, so I have some shims in there. And I'm checking between this set of shims and the bottom. And what I'm seeing here is on dead level. So, I'm going to throw a nail in here. And I'm going to check it. It's good. Now I don't know if you can see this, but there's a very wide gap here in the middle of this thing because of how thin this wood is. The door jamb needs to come out to right there in the middle. So I need to fix that, or else the door opening is going to look wavy when I go to close the door. At this point, if you want to, you can actually check it to see how the door is shut. Now the door seems tight, and when you look at it, you'll see that it is tight. But here's this key to this. When I nailed the nails into the jamb, and let me go over there and explain this. I have these doors nailed on this side of the door jamb over here. That has a tendency to pull this direction. Now what I'll do is on this side, I'll put some screws in here to pull this door jamb tight and to bring the hinges over, okay? Because this side of the jamb, when I look at it, is slightly loose on this side compared to that side. It's not much, but it's enough to make the door touch. I mean, the door shuts, but the door's touching the jamb. I don't want it to touch the jamb. I want it to stay away from the jamb about 1/8 of an inch if I can, or 1/16. Okay guys, so we're on the inside of the bedroom now. You can see that the gap along the top of the door there is even. I do want to put a shim in here or some kind of a nailer because I don't like leaving it just hanging there. Although the door is only 30 inches wide and the casing could hold that, you know, if you nail the casing up around it, or when you do it. So it's up to you whether you do that or not. Now, as we look down the door here, I have a nice thin, about 1/16 of an inch gap. But all the way at the bottom there, I'm just about touching. Now, the door closes and it's not touching, okay, but it's close. So what I can do with that is I can pull, and this is the way I say not to drive the nails in. I can take and pull this shim out down here and pull this hinge towards the door jamb a very little bit, just to be able to adjust that out of there, okay? That'll help this door to come out. Now you got to be careful because when you pull in on this bottom part of the door, you will also be pulling down on this side of the door, so you don't want to do much. All you need is a 1/16. Chances are if I put a drywall screw on, or a screw on this side of the door stop, like over in here, that will pull that enough to make that 1/16 of an inch. So before I go pulling any nails out, I'm going to put a screw in down here and see if that pulls the door over. I'm pretty sure it will, and then I'll get back to you here. Okay guys, so now you can see I adjusted that over there with a screw. What I did was I pulled the nail out, pulled the shims out, and replaced the shims so that they would give me this 1/16 I was looking for there. Now I have it all the way up there, so I'm in good shape. So what I'm going to do next now is I'm going to nail the other side of the jamb. This side, I'm going to put a nail in here. Now I'm only going to do it in about 3 places, probably not at the top, but midway down at the door latch and then down at the bottom. There's no need to really nail it too many places because this wood is so thin that they make the doors out of it. All you start doing is buckling the jamb here and there. And right now, like I say, we have a nice straight, easy closing door jamb here. So we're going to have to finish that up and then we're done. And the boss was calling me for lunch, so I'm on my way. Okay, well, we have the 2 nails in all the way up and down the door jamb, and they're set. And on this side, wherever there's a hinge, I have a screw, because the screw will hold the hinge side better than what a nail will. So that's why I put a screw in there. But nonetheless, the door closes very nice. We've got a nice gap all the way around both sides, so we should be good with this door. So now the next step is to take my utility knife, and I'm going to start to cut the shims out of the way. And you want to cut on an angle like I'm showing you, so it would be like this to the door jamb, and a couple of marks down there, and you can see how easily the shim will come off. And that's what you want to do to be able to not disrupt the setting of the jamb, because prying on this could pull the door jamb out. Pushing on it can pull the door jamb out. You want to keep the jamb in there where you put it. So that's why I use such big nails. A lot of people don't use the 8-penny finishing nails. They use 6 and 4s. Now, depending upon the molding, will depend upon whether I use 6 or 4 finishing nails, because 8-penny finishing nails without a doubt give you a good grip. Okay, they're way into the first framing member, but they're also a lot harder to drive in, and the chances of running into something as you go through the wood and bending the nail is greater. So, you know, again, if you're not up to, like, if you don't do a lot of this, you may want to go to 6-penny and 4-penny. Of course, you know, you can also use nail guns. The problem with nail guns is a lot of times the nails go in and they come out the side of the door jamb because something in there bent them, especially with hardwood. So we're going to finish cutting these shims off of here, and then we'll start to put molding around this door. Okay guys, so there the door's up and the molding is on. Got to get some lock sets yet, which is the easy part. I usually let beginners put locks in. They can't mess them up too badly. Beginning carpenters anyway. So now, I don't know if I'm going to put the molding on the other side. I think I might put it on the other side as well, just so that I can see it when I come into the house, because it's getting to the point where I'm not seeing anything when I walk in because it's up in this one bedroom. But anyway, a couple other little things I'd like to tell you is that this is a door casing. It's the same thing that's on the door behind me, and there's no relief cut in this. Now, when I was making this molding, I couldn't find a relief cutter, and I'm sure that they have one somewhere. I just didn't look good enough, and to be honest with you, I don't feel like you need it. Now, the one thing about the relief, let me just draw something here. So the relief looks like this. In other words, where that pencil line is where the wood would be cut out of there. Now, what's good about the relief is when you lay this wood against something flat, this side will be on the door jamb, this side will be on the wall covering, whether it's drywall or anything else. Now, that makes a better fit at times, because there's nothing in the middle that if something's holding you out, you can still get a close gap with this relief cut. But let me just show you this. If you look there, I've got a nice fit in here. You're seeing a shadow because it's dark in here, but it's a nice tight fit there. And I also have a nice tight fit against the drywall. Now, the reason for that is what I said to you about lining up the sides of the door jamb with the drywall when you put it up. But let me just show you something else here. If you look at this drywall, this is on another doorway, you can see here there's a clean cut, okay? It's inside the space of the door jamb, so that's going to be fine. But up here, you have this rough cut, and it's on the outside of the door jamb, and I have to cut that off. But what I'm trying to get at is sometimes you have like what's right here. Right here, we have the drywall is on the is beyond the or it's not beyond, it's within the frame of the door jamb, so I don't really have to cut the drywall up. But here's what happens here. When the painter paints, if you look here, because this was cut with a saw, there's a little rough edges there. So when the painter paints, he comes in here and he rolls paint on there, and these little edges here become very hard. And when you try to lay your casing flat, you end up fighting them. Like you see this one little bump there, like there it's flat, there it's not. And you end up fighting them if you don't trim them off before you go to put the casing on. So what you have to do with something like that, let me see if I can back up a little, is to take your knife and just run it down there again so you have a clean finish. You want something that looks like this. You don't want this if it's within the frame, but these little rough edges here are sticking up. They'll hold your casing away from the door jamb. And even if there's a relief cut, sometimes, depending upon the manufacturer, the relief is not like this. It may be a series of lines. When you put it on there, you're still going to have this away from the door jamb. And what I mean is like let's say, like right up in here, for instance. Now, let me see if I can find a spot where it's going to pull away. Well, there's not one there. Here, this side has one. Now, if you look at this, you can see the framing member inside there. I don't know if you can see it, but I can. But the drywall here is sticking up. So when I go to bring my door casing in there, you see there's a little gap in there. So I need to get rid of that because it's being held away from the drywall. Instead of being flat, like this now, okay, I pushed it down, it's holding it up, away from it. And the further out you come, the further away it is from the door. Like you can see right here, if I don't cut that off, I'm going to have a hard time trying to get that down. Now, it may not seem like a big deal, but if you can't get the door stop against, or I mean the casing against the door jamb, then you have a gap in there. And the problem with the gap is if the gosh darn gap was even all the way up, it wouldn't be so bad, but it never is. It's away here, touching down there, and this is what you have to, this is what you want to have. You want to have this, a nice straight finish. But to get that, you have to understand why you're not getting a straight finish, okay? And that's because there's little burrs on there that even though the drywall is that direction towards the frame, you're still being held away by little burrs that are on there, just like that one right there. Okay, you can see that it's touching there and then it comes away. May not be a big deal to some people, but when you're selling houses, I'm not saying this house, but when you're selling houses for $500,000, they look at that, believe me. So anyway, just something extra. Hope you enjoyed this video about hanging the door. And as I do the different projects in this house, I will go ahead and make videos showing the different things that I do. Have a good one, guys. So one little tip here, guys, that I'll show you, and I'll show you how to overcome it. But if you look at these nail heads real closely, I don't know if you can, how well you can see them. You'll see that there are only 2 nails in here. All these nails came from the same box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 nails there. Out of the 10 nails, all of them were cut off with some kind of a cutter, but these 2 have indentions in the head. Originally, finished nails were made like this, with the indention in the head. The reason for that indention is so that when you set the nail, you could use your nail set, put it into that hole, and you could drive the nail in without any problem. These finished nails that have this high spot on them, this cut mark, tend to make you slide off. There's nowhere to put there's nowhere. So guys, one other little thing I'm going to show you here. I don't know how well you can see those heads of those nails, These are the 8-penny finishing nails I'm using, and if you look at this, there's only 3 nails that have a concave head on them, which you can put the nail set into, okay, which is to drive the nail into the wood, and the other ones have like a convex head because they were cut in a machine with a wire cutter of some sort. I don't know why. These came out of the same box, same manufacturer. I don't know why they do this, but it actually makes it hard when you're trying to set the nail into the wood. And when you're working with oak, you need to have that little concave dimple, or not dimple, but relief in there to be able to put the nail set in, or else you slide off of it and end up making a bigger hole. But I'll show you a way to overcome that. So guys, we're looking at a real close-up view of 2 nails. One has the concave, one has the convex head on them. So let me just back out of here for a minute, do some explaining here, get this camera to focus. When I take a nail set, okay, and usually my nail set is a very sharp point on it. This has already been bumped down from all the nails I drove in so far. This is the only set I use. So I need to sharpen it a little. But what you want is a really sharp nail set. Okay, they used to be made with a little round dome inside of them for rounded nails, but that's not happening anymore apparently. But anyway, this nail on this side has a convex shape to it, or a concave shape. This has a convex. In other words, the head of the nail is coming out towards me rather than an indentation. When I go to drive this nail in, and I put my finger right at the bottom of the nail set, and I hold it tight, my finger is against the nail and it's against the nail setting tool. I bump it until I make sure that the nail set is going to stay there. And then I drive it in all the way so that it's below the surface. But on some of these nails that have this high crown to them, now I've been doing this a while, so I know how to hold this. But what happens is you slide off the nail. Let's see if I can get a close-up here. Yeah, what happens here is you slide off the nail and end up putting a hole in the wood, either here or, you know, over here or somewhere else. And then if you remove the edge of the nail, like if you knock the edge of that round cylinder off, you find that you have nowhere to go to be able to get back on there. One of the things you can do is you can take, let me back out again here. One of the things you can do is, if you get desperate, is you can take the nail setting tool and turn it around and use the flat end to try and flatten that wire that's sticking up. That's number one. Flatten it without hurting the wood. Then take the set and turn it around, and holding the set very firmly, I mean I'm really holding that sucker in your fingers, tap it just enough to get a hole started in the nail. In other words, to make a little indentation. And then once you see the nail starting to go in, then just go ahead and, you know, follow through with that. And then you end up with a nicely set nail, and you'll be able to put a little bit of putty over that to hide the nail hole. So just a little something. I actually want to show you how badly this can be, but I'm glad it's not happening to my molding because I don't want to screw up what I've already put on the door. So anyway, we've got the molding now on the inside and the outside of the door, and what's nice about this is that when I walk in the house and look up from downstairs, I can see my beautiful red oak trim that came off of my wood miser and made this all worthwhile for me. So this is what I've been waiting for. So I wanted to see it from, I want to be able to see it from downstairs when I look up through the balcony here. I want to be able to see the trim, so that's why I was anxious to get it on the outside of the door. Have a good one, guys. Bye. So when I look up to the balcony there, that's what I wanted to be able to see. I wanted to see what that molding was looking like to me. And I really like it. Really like the way it looks.